Hey everyone, welcome back for our deep dive. Today we're going to dig into some recent news, both big and small. I mean, we've got everything from hurricanes to food dyes. Should be interesting, right?
Yeah, it's quite a mix today, but hey, that's what makes it fun, right? Connecting these dots and figuring out what it all means.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. First up, Hurricane Helene. Man, the images coming out of North Carolina are just devastating. Over 100 lives lost, a public health emergency declared. It's just awful.
Yeah, it's a grim reminder of how destructive these storms can be. And, this is likely to become more common as we see the effects of climate change, right? We're talking about rising sea levels, warmer ocean temperatures, all of which can make these hurricanes even more powerful.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the immediate impact, is it? I mean, the long-term effects on these communities, the rebuilding process, that's going to take years.
Absolutely. The long tail on these events is something that doesn't always make the headlines, but it's a huge issue. It impacts everything from infrastructure to mental health. So, yeah, you're right to highlight that.
Definitely. Okay, shifting gears a bit here. California is making headlines with a new law that bans some artificial food dyes in public schools. We're talking red 40, yellow 5, some of the big ones. What's the story there?
So this is interesting because it's the first state-level ban of its kind in the U.S., and it's something that's been debated for years, right? The potential health effects of these dyes, especially for kids. Now, it's worth noting that the science isn't completely settled. Some studies have shown links to hyperactivity, maybe even some cancers, but it's complicated.
Right. And the FDA still says they're safe at the levels currently used, so.
Exactly. So California is kind of taking a precautionary approach here, which could have ripple effects across the country. Will other states follow suit? Will food companies start changing their formulas nationwide? It's definitely one to watch.
Definitely. Okay, speaking of things that could have ripple effects, let's talk about this potential dock worker strike. This could be huge, especially with the holidays coming up.
Yeah, it's not looking good. I mean, we're talking a potential work stoppage that could start as early as, tomorrow? And that could mean major supply chain disruptions. Think about it, all those goods that come in through those ports, everything from electronics to clothing, even food, it could all be delayed.
Yeah, and we saw what happened during the pandemic, right? Supply chains are pretty fragile.
Exactly, and this strike really highlights that. And it's not just about inconvenience, it also has the potential to impact prices. If goods are harder to come by, those costs get passed along to the consumer.
Right. Inflation's already a problem. This could make it worse.
Exactly.
Okay, on a different note, let's talk about this Verizon outage. Millions of users offline. And it's not just about missing a few TikToks, is it?
No, not at all. We've become so reliant on these networks, for communication, for navigation, for work, for everything, really. And when they go down, it's a big deal.
Yeah, what's concerning is that this is the second major outage for Verizon this year. Is there something going on with their network reliability? Should we be worried?
Well, it's definitely a red flag. Two major outages in such a short time frame suggest there might be some underlying issues that need to be addressed. It raises questions about the resilience of our telecommunications infrastructure as a whole.
It's a little unnerving when you think about it, right? Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about the situation in the Middle East. Tensions are escalating between Israel and Lebanon. Hezbollah's involved. It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it's a really complex situation with a long and complicated history. But the short version is that Israel is carrying out military actions against what they say are Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. They claim it's about national security, preventing attacks.
And Hezbollah is, of course, vowing to retaliate, right?
Exactly. And so you've got this potential for a wider conflict, which is obviously a major concern. President Biden has called for a ceasefire, but it's unclear if that's going to be enough to de-escalate the situation.
Right, and then you've got the humanitarian side of things, too. Innocent people are caught in the crossfire here.
Absolutely. And that's something that often gets lost in these geopolitical discussions, but it's a tragedy for everyone involved.
It is. And as if that wasn't enough, we're also seeing these devastating floods in Italy. Thousands evacuated, homes and businesses destroyed. Again, another example of these extreme weather events becoming more frequent, more intense.
It's almost like all these events, these seemingly disparate events, whether it's a hurricane in the US, a conflict in the Middle East, or floods in Europe, they're all interconnected in a way.
Right, like it's all part of this bigger picture that we're only just starting to understand.
Exactly, and it really highlights the complexity of the challenges we're facing as a global community.
That's a lot, and it can feel kind of overwhelming, how do we even begin to process all of this information, let alone do something about it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
it starts with being informed, staying engaged, and not letting this constant barrage of news numb us to the realities of the world. It's about finding those trusted sources of information and being willing to engage in these difficult conversations, even when they're uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Well said. Okay, that's about all the time we have for our deep dive today. As always, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next time with more news and analysis. Until then, stay informed and stay engaged.
And stay curious.
Yes, stay curious.